I know that you just said it was about the lies, but what about the lies were so enraging?
One of the things that drove my anger, you can actually go back in Facebook, not that anyone would want to, but I thought of printing out my Facebook like a giant book and going through it and extracting from it the points that could be a book.
Sure.
Or 10 books.
Right.
But I think the core of it was that I have felt and still do feel that skateboarders are being lied to and cheated.
Yeah.
Far too easily, far too often, and for far too long.
Yes.
By right now, when you say the industry, you're really talking about more than like, because take another passion pursuit, skiing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure that Bauer, isn't Bauer a ski brand?
It feels right.
They make, no wait, Bauer is hockey skates.
Burton is
snowboards. Burton
yeah.
snowboards. I'm sure that they own a good stake in snowboarding media. I'm sure that they regulate who gets to advertise and who can say what. Now, I'm almost certain that if somebody makes an advertisement that Burton doesn't like, that they'll do what they can to get that advertisement marginalized and, for you $5,000, but for you $15,000. I'm sure it all goes on.
Right.
But as you can tell from my voice, I don't care as much right now as I used to. But when I watched things like 1031, there were shops in Cleveland, Ohio that didn't carry 1031 because of some sense of Midwest beef, and that's not having the good of the skateboarder in mind. Cleveland is where Christian Svitak was from. I mean, they should have been like, dude, water under the bridge. Let's just do this thing. You're national, you're international. Let's back it. Let's be loyal. Let's work together. I don't know what all went on. But
why? I don't understand.
And you had and there's always like the one shop on the west side and the one shop on the east side, and they're always at some dumb war with each other.
Right.
And you got the shop decks are constantly the main focus. I've been in shops where my boards sold really well. The skateboarders felt really supported by what I was doing. But then when they went to the shop would literally like over the counter just talk them out of it. And I'm not talking about Cincinnati.
Sure.
Yeah. And
I
had another guy who's like, I'd buy your boards, but I just bought 75 shop decks.
Holy crap.
Yeah, and the margin on them is going to be almost as good as what they get on my boards. And this, I've been through this. This is just how it goes. And so what I did was, before direct to customer sales became a thing, I was selling direct to customer.
Yeah.
And people could call me, email me, message me, and order up a board, and I would write a carbon copy slip out, and I would make their board, and I would ship it to them, and that grew my brand after I was grounded.
You're grounded.
I got grounded. My team riders didn't feel safe after a few things went down, and I couldn't have team riders. I couldn't go out to events locally and represent my brand because of not so much just because of what certain people did that was violent, but because hundreds of other people who maybe 25, maybe 45, but not 10, but 10 will do you.
Yes.
Wanted to do, because now that side of the bread was buttered. So, you're going to try and take a run in a bowl, and someone's going to throw their board in while you're doing it. I mean, we have a well-known shop owner and brand owner who's known for dropping his board in when a fat guy took his run.
Yeah.
I know that fat guy.
Yeah, that's gnarly.
And he's a good dude.
Yeah.
But he got a board dropped in on him when he went to take a run. That's the kind of thing.
Right.
You drop into a bowl to take a run, someone drops their skateboard in on you, you could be looking at major injuries.
Dude,
and these things are not a joke, and it shouldn't be. You're going to have that, but it shouldn't be your shop owner.
Yeah, no.
It shouldn't be your brand owner. It shouldn't be your industry professionals that engender within the community these kind of ethical dynamics. It should not.
Yeah.
And when it is, those brand owners, those shop owners ought to experience a loss of legacy.
Yes.
They ought to experience consequences.
Yes.
But they don't.
Yeah. No.
They don't. Because skateboarders are, if anything, they are loyal to their heroes.
And they're just good timers.
And if they're anything, they're bad at picking heroes in the first place.
No, truly, yes. 100%.
Well, because when you pick your heroes based on who makes the cheesiest, like, what's that called? Duck
face?
Duck face?
Yeah, is that the lips?
Who makes the
lips?
duck face while doing a method air off a launch ramp? And now that guy is the king of skateboarding.
Right.
You know.
You're right.
And, 10 years in jail for meth, no big deal.
Dude, bro.
I'm talking about Christian Sorey.
I know, yes.
And he should have a good attitude about it, because that was the fact of it.
Yes.
You got to own it. I got to own mine. You got to own yours.
Right.
And is it really that important that a person was the best at doing something?
Apparently so.
Well, if I'm choosing a skateboard deck, I want to buy the one from the person who's best at doing that, making those.
Yes.
That's why.
Right.
It's a good time to break and say thanks to our sponsor, Life Skateboards.
Yes.
Look at how good I'm getting at this.
Uh-huh.
Life Skateboards is the person, Sam Cook and Casper Jones make my skateboards. Life Skateboards, lifeskateboard.com. And they kill it at making great skateboards. Go on lifeskateboard.com and become a lifer. Get a life skateboard.
Truly.
Also, he opened shop accounts. I don't know why you would open shop accounts, but he did it. Right. That means that your shop can hit up Life Skateboards and open. I'll tell you this: there should be a minimum number for shops, and it should be 9. And the shops need to know they need to become a cool cat and order 9 lives. I really enjoyed that.
Yes, I like it. I bet Sam enjoyed it as
seriously.
well.
Sam should hire me to be in charge of marketing. He should. Let me manage a team of reps and riders and just go for it. I could travel state to state for Life Skateboards just doing the stuff.
Gosh.
Dope.
Oh, gosh. There's a disturbance in the force.
Oh, man. I'd be sick. I'd be sick. So we wish we were in Cleveland.
Dude, truly. Cleveland. The Santa Monica of the Skid Row of the Midwest. I love Cleveland, dude. I don't know why. I've just decided that I like it.
You know why I like talking about this sort of stuff, and we're going to wrap on this a lot.
Go ahead.
Is because it touches on very common human dynamics.
Yes.
The greed. Greed drives. Greed drives, and greed is. It's funny because one of the things that people have accused me of so often is being greedy.
Yes.
That was early. That was before I became impervious to the accusation. But isn't it funny that the people who call you something are often the very ones who are doing it?
Yeah.
That confession through projection.
Yes.
I got called an embezzling, greedy jerk by a guy who I had personally watched acquire fundamental gear and tech to the tune of about $14,000 value from a brand that he worked with.
Yeah.
And at the end of his, when he finally hit the final crisis, he declared that this is all mine now.
Lovely.
And the owner of the concern had to make a decision.
Yeah.
Do I preserve a friendship and acquiesce to this insane demand?
Yes.
Or do I fight for the truth of the matter, which is that, hey man, we agreed on the terms,
right?
But those weren't included in it.
Right.
You're taking like $7 to $14,000 worth of gear,
right?
If it was bought new. And the owner of that concern was wise and gracious and a kind person, and he wound up just letting it go.
Just letting it go.
Fast forward 2 years to that guy accusing me of doing that type of thing that I never did.
Yes.
That's fine.
Lovely.
It's fine.
Lovely, dude.
Who else is we talked about Pete, we talked about Life Skateboards. Who else is a shining light of the good stuff? I think of Gluefoot Skateboards, Greg Pravaznik.
Okay.
He's making cool decks. He's got a spoon concave, unashamed, deep cereal bowl concave.
Yes.
He's a very low volume operation. Manac Skateboards. Geez, what is he? San Diego? NorCal?
Perhaps.
Johnny Manak, killing it. He's a musician. He's a tech guy. He's just such a dynamic man. California just has some of the coolest people in it.
Yeah. Yes.
You've met Steve Barry, you know.
I do, dude.
Yeah.
He really was a nice guy, man. I want nothing but good things for Steve. He was a great dude.
You know who else is a nice guy?
Gad.
Paul Schmidt.
Yeah, he seems like a great dude.
Sweet
Right.
as sugar.
Yes.
Such a nice guy.
Right. And it's funny, 'cause people are more than one thing. That's one thing
That's
as
right.
I'm getting older, man. I'm really taking that into account when I discuss or think about ideas and people. Man, we're so more than one thing, man. You know?
We are.
It's true, and we should keep that in mind. And I think we do, but I think all of us should keep that in mind as we discuss things and ideas, because there's no such thing as like just a pure villain. Life isn't a movie, you know.
It's, and the other thing is, you never get rid of anyone.
Yeah.
You know, I have blistering critique to offer. I do.
I love
I've
blistering.
Got
it's
blistering
true.
critique.
Yes.
I do.
Right.
I see things in a way that, of course, I believe is reasonable.
Yes.
But I have a limited view.
Right.
But something I'm not missing while I'm doing all that is when we discuss issues of commerce, advertising, branding, right? Those things are not the same thing as the things of actual life.
Yeah.
I think that skateboarders, as a people, to some extent, possibly great, possibly small,
Yes.
are they easily conflate branding.
Mm-hmm.
They believe the hype.
Yeah.
So they believe that this person is exceedingly valuable because of their daring do.
Yes. Right.
They do. And they get sweaty palms and they freak out when they meet them, and when the person scribbles their name on something, they're they are fanatics.
Yes.
But fanaticism is very superficial.
Yes.
And it's not a good trait to be fanatical. It's good to be devoted to something. And I think in skateboarding, a good thing to be devoted to might be technical achievement. You've got these warriors out there who are going to war for the accomplishment of a technical trick.
Sure.
Good on you, mate.
Yeah.
You know?
Have at it.
And then you've got people who are devoted to what I am, which is the sensation of surfing. I love the sensation of riding a skateboard. I love it.
Right.
Guys like me tend to be lower achievers on the technical aspect, but we tend to be long-termers.
Yes.
And but we tend also to be people who like hanging out with our grandkids way more than we like riding our skateboards. Those things are going to be those things are going to be and then you've got people who are fanatics. Yeah. And a lot of people have tendencies toward this.
Sure.
Where they might be willing to overlook and neglect being interested in some really terrible stuff that goes on. They may be willing to overlook and not be interested in finding out some really terrible stuff. This is why Thrasher is not going to they're not probably ever going to contribute in a serious way toward cultural reform. They can pretend that they've always welcomed women. Yeah. They can pretend that they've always been tolerant of alternative lifestyles and minority concerns. They can just flip the page and pretend they never were like they are in black and white in the past. Right. But they're not going to... They can pretend that they're like... Now look, man, when it comes to bullying, I am very pro rites of passage. Sure. And I'm very pro good-natured heckling. Yeah. There is a heckling that is not bullying. Yes. And this is nuanced. It is. And we need to keep it. And it's not easy to understand, especially for a kid who's being heckled. But these create benchmarks by which young skateboarders or new skateboarders might experience entry and membership in their community. Yeah. Also, I like regulation.
Yeah.
I like that if there's some coach dad who's being a jerk at the park,
Yeah.
that they get some pushback.
Yeah.
I like it.
Right.
You know, we discussed the dad who kicked his kid into the ramp. I think that was a nuanced situation.
Right.
I think one reason that things went the way they did with that was a nuanced situation. Definitely completely out of line. Definitely got handled.
Yeah.
I hope it's rare that sort of thing happened. But my son brought up to me watching a dad punch his kid in the face while we were at the public skate park.
Oofta.
Yeah. And it was because the kid wasn't doing the trick.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Oofta, dude.
And
that one sucks.
it really does. So I like regulation, but I don't like when that goes awry, which it always will.
Yeah.
And there has to be another kind of regulation on it.
Right.
Which means that human beings will always be in conflict.
Yes.
We're never going to smooth it out and create a safe space. It's never going to be safe. Your life is always going to take diligence, and involvement in any community is always going to be laborious.
Sure.
I think we've indulged ourselves in an idea that we can just have fun. Well, that's hedonistic and shallow.
Right.
We need to be vigilant, especially those of us who are grown-ups.
Yes.
You know? So, and it does include things like journalism. Like, someone's going to have to bring up the topics that nobody wants talked about.
Yep.
And in skateboarding, that's really tough because we have what's the opposite of a treasure trove? A manure pile.
Yes,
but
right.
it's not hidden.
Yeah, I don't.
It's like
it's an abscess.
We have an abscess.
Yeah.
That's right, and it needs to be lanced, and it's really tough, man, because
Yeah.
it can only heal from the inside out, and it takes constant wound care.
Yeah.
And this abscess is in the form of some really bad historical behaviors done by some of your favorite skateboarders.
Yes.
And everything from incredibly abusive sexual misconduct to all kinds of financial hoo-hoggery. You know, your heroes are fallen, and anyone who tells you otherwise is selling you something. It's just true.
Yeah.
And I like it that skateboarders kind of begin to engage that and think a little more critically. And what I like about it is also on our end of the market, you know, our end of the market is peopled with folks like Sam at Life Skateboards, or Pete at Pete's Pigs, or Johnny Manak over at Manak Skateboards, or Provaznik over at Gluefoot, or
Sure.
There are so many who are in the makers movement who are small shop makers. They tend to be adults. Some of them are stinkers.
Yeah.
Sure. I had a guy who is part of the makers movement call me up and just go on and on about how he was gonna beat people up and
Dude.
I thought there's always going to be crazy people.
Yeah.
And I still like that guy.
Yeah.
You know, as a person, I still like him. As
Right.
an industry person, no, you know,
Right.
but my heart remains open.
Right.
You know, but that was a mess.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so there's always going to be the labor of being a human community for skateboarders to take into consideration. Because you go out to the park, or you go to the spot, or you go to the bar, and you got your cliques.
Yes.
And that's a people. You know, here in my city, I am now completely outside the loop of skateboarding events. I don't even know if there are any anymore. Do you know? Are there any like premieres? We used to have premieres all the time.
All the time.
We had a
yeah.
skate shop that dropped a new T-shirt design, and they threw a premiere.
Yeah, I
You
don't
know?
think so. I saw one like get together to build some stuff at a local DIY not too long ago, maybe within the last 6 months, but no premiere style.
Was that DIY even in our state?
No,
Okay,
tectonically.
tectonically.
But
was
it
not
is
in our
within
state.
20 minutes of where we live.
Yeah.
To be fair.
Yes. To be
Um,
fair.
To be fair. Yeah, I think, I like that we're throughout this entire thing. I feel as though we are advocating principle level trajectories of thought and ideas, and that is the antidote to all this chicanery nonsense. Because it's more nuanced. Like I have written down here, pro healthy hierarchy / regulation, but con unhealthy dictator style leadership. And there's a
Yeah.
difference between the two, and it's important as skateboarders. If your entire ethos is like shut up and skate, there's gonna be shit in your pond, like, and it's not just you. That's the thing. It's so easy to feel like I'm just gonna go to the skate park and it's just gonna be me, and this is my thing, so I don't have any responsibility at all to stand for anything. No, because it's the little kids and it's the girls and it's the people who are oppressed who are going to continue to be oppressed. I don't like using that word because it's been
I want to
hijacked.
That makes me want to talk about something.
Go ahead.
This is one of those things that just got buried along the way. And I think this is a great example of when it's not right.
Go ahead.
And this is not going to reflect well. If you know who these people are, this will not reflect well on them. And if you are any of these people, do yourself a favor. Don't jump into the comments and identify yourself. Okay?
They will.
They always did.
Yeah, they will.
They always did. So here's what happened. We had back in the heyday of when doing a DIY build was this life-alteringly important thing.
Right.
The idea of building a DIY was just, it was unheard of, man. Burnside, wow, these guys, this idea was ours the whole time. We were building quarter pipes and half pipes and spots our whole lives. From the 80s, we were adapting to our environment and building things to skate, leaning things up against other things. I mean, the whole DIY movement being hyped.
Yeah.
I understand why, and that was an overall good.
Absolutely.
It really was. I really like it. I built 12 yards of crappy poured concrete in my own space, and I had, it's fine. I'm not king of town because I built something.
Yes.
Right. You're not king of town. And in skateboarding, we shouldn't have kings of town, but we do.
Yes.
If you're listening and you can relate to that, we'd love a comment of affirmation because it's dry and dusty out here.
Yes.
And we'd love a drink of water. During this period, during when building a grind box was this monumental achievement. Building a quarter pipe. A 4-foot tall quarter pipe with a foot of vert was an achievement. There arose a king, and he ruled with an iron fist.
Yes.
And he acquired for himself the retail, and he owned for himself the role of first pro skater.
Yes.
Having turned his very self pro.
Yes.
It was the late 90s. What were you expecting? 2001, something like that. But around 2007, 8, 9, 10, this consolidated. This consolidated into a real regime. The words, "I'm going to ice them out," were often heard.
Yes.
As the plan for one skate shop to rule them all. And in this kingdom, there was a DIY. Yes. Back when DIY was a mysterious word filled with authority and authenticity, legitimacy, the great brass ring on the carousel of skateboarding. Reach out if you can and grab it.
Yes.
Yeah, so you got this situation.
Yes.
And they had, back then it was Facebook.
Yeah.
It was all Facebook. And it was all, who's bringing the weed?
It really was.
Yeah, it was all, who's bringing the weed, says the great king of town.
Yes.
And, who's bringing the weed? And the beer and the weed and the pills flowed.
Yes.
And this was legitness. This was the legitimacy of true core skateboarding. And there you had happy little old Lou.
Yeah.
Just banging around, doing frontside grinds and loving the Lord.
Yes.
And stoking up kids and doing my own thing,
Yes. Right.
And the pictures were being taken, these really well done photographs. And the photographer and the filmer, these were roles in this ecosystem of authority, legitimacy. These were the sort of like Yeah, you get this fish tank. It's a big-ass 50-gallon fish tank. You got some big old Oscars in there. And they just grow and grow and grow. Giant cichlids from the Amazon.
Yes.
With their big gaping mouths.
Yes.
And you can feed them live mice, you know?
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
they're
they're
great.
horrifying, yes.
But, you know, the tank is going to turn green if you don't get some of them plecostomus in there.
Yes.
The bottom suckers. That's your filmers. You know? Usually they're low-talent soldiers. I mean, there's some really talented filmers out there.
Yeah.
But... skaters,
yes.
You know, but like a lot of times they were these guys that were sort of like loved that they, you know, maybe their parents bought them a really good camera and they got their spot, you know, and they were able to be part of the gatekeeping of the whole thing. They were able to be part of it because they were filmers. And so this one photographer, he was quite a gifted photographer. He was doing great work. His photos were in the City Beat magazine articles about how the king of town was the saint of skateboarding in the Midwest, and all this stuff is going on, you know, and of course I'm the kook. I'm the king of kooks,
yes.
You know, the whole time,
yes,
which was a proud thing for me.
Absolutely.
And because there's a lot of kooks,
yeah,
and so something went wrong, and this photographer who was such an integral part of the promotion of this whole thing. I mean, these guys, they're DIY. By the time they'd been working 2.5 years on it, they had already done a documentary about themselves.
Yes.
You know, and their photographer was really getting airwaves. And then their photographer went to prison in conjunction with a horrible crime in which children were hurt.
Yes. And
the nature of that crime was, to make it even worse, was sexual.
Yup.
Now this is already a disaster.
Literally.
But what happened next is the focus of my commentary.
Yeah.
Because remember, Facebook was the key.
Yes.
There was a good-natured kook who was employed by this community as their Facebook page moderator.
Yeah.
And he was a good guy,
yeah.
And just wanted his place at the table.
Yes.
And he was a good guy.
Yeah.
And this good guy had ethics. And he came up over the radar on the Facebook page that he was the moderator of for them.
Yes.
And said, we need to have a community conversation about what happened. Now, this is exactly what needs to happen when you have a crime of that nature committed within a community as tight as skateboarding DIY communities are.
Yes.
That is exactly what needs to happen. I can't stress how right that person was. That Facebook page moderator was so right. Yep. That there needs to be, especially a DIY community with lots of drugs, lots of drinking, you know, this kind of crime having been committed by the photographer for such a movement.
Right.
It's essential that there be a more thorough and clear introspection in the community.
Yeah.
About this. Now, one of the problems with that is that more people may wind up going to jail.
Yikes.
Yes.
Yep.
And immediately,
yep.
The king of town came forth
yes.
onto the Facebook page.
Yes.
And I have the screenshot. I've got receipts on all this. Immediately, the king of town came forth and declared with authority that anyone caught talking about this would be 86th.
Shut that shit down.
86th at that time in the skateboarding community, that really put the fear in these people because the skateboarders of that era were cowards. To a man.
Yeah.
They just couldn't hang with the threat of being 86th by the king of town, and so that community conversation never happened.
Yeah.
There's your City Beat article. There's the real thing we needed to talk about. And if our reputation, or if even more members of the community were exposed to consequences,
yeah.
That's what needs to happen. If responsibility had to be taken for running parties in such a way that the inebriation and the different kinds of drugs and things that are used get out of hand, then that's important. That's important.
Yeah.
This is grown-up stuff. This is where the hype of business and industry need to take a backseat to the real responsibilities of life.
Yeah.
But that's all it took, was a shot over the bow from the king of town. The moderator, as far as I could see, quickly understood that he needed to step away, and he stepped away.
Yeah, he wasn't the moderator anymore.
He stepped away, as
yeah.
far as I remember it.
Yeah.
He wisely, well, I mean, I don't know how wise it was, but he did what he thought was best. He stepped away, and he didn't make a stink. He stepped away and walked away from it. I think he's fine today. I mean, he went off and did what was good for him, which isn't that what life's all about?
Yeah, right.
When it comes down. So the photographer went off to prison. The king of town ruled with an iron fist. Free speech was kept from happening about something that should have been discussed because it was disgusting,
Yeah.
and we need to make it harder for it to happen again.
Right.
And some years later, I wrote an article. It was a first draft. I sent it to an editor, and he published it as a first draft. It was terrible writing.
It's poetic.
And I knew that I was done, and I wasn't done in my town because of the king of town. I was done in my town because, to a man, everyone who was responsible for responding in a healthy way had responded in the least healthy way.
Yeah.
They were passive where they should have been aggressive.
Right.
And that's the kind of community that I live in.
Yeah.
And so, there's a real degree to which I can say that I lost respect for my community in those years.
Yes.
And if you're a person who has a similar experience, hit us up at the CapmLew podcast and let us know what you've experienced around it. But if you're a person in my community, and this has caused you to reflect on those days, good, you should.
Yeah.
Because you were asleep at your watch. Now, I wasn't part of any of that went on. Later on, I wound up being accused publicly of calling the cops on the DIY. Never did it. I never did anything but donate to that DIY. Ever.
Right.
Never did it. I was also banned from that DIY. I was put on notice that I was banned from it. That's a weird thing. I ended up sending I sent a single line email to the mayor of that town saying, "Is that DIY a public park? Is it open to the public?" And he sent a single word back to me. Yes. That is the extent of all my correspondence with the civic leaders in regard to that DIY.
Yeah.
But ooh, what a sad, sour taste that left in my mouth.
Yeah.
Because in those days, I saw my entire community demonstrate complicity.
Yes.
Complicity with a culture that covers.
Yeah. And it was the silence. It wasn't as if people were coming out and, the king of town came out and told people they'd be 86, but everybody else just kind of took it on the nose and just pushed forward with their life because we should all just shut up and skate. And it was the silence.
Because it's all about fun, isn't
Yeah,
it, Luke? As long as I'm having fun,
yeah,
then if it's
right.
fun.
Yeah. So that makes everything all right as long as you're having fun.
But we weren't going to talk about, pills are bad for you.
It's true.
Pills are really bad for you. So when your local sponsored skater, one of the greatest talents of your town, has as their Instagram handle, so-and-so takes pills and is a pillhead.
Yeah.
Your king of town isn't going to say to that kid, "Hey man, get that pill shit out of here."
Right.
Like, man, you need to go, you need to get help, and don't be like so many people we've lost already.
Right.
And I have feelings about this because I'm a skateboarder. Skateboarding as a people may not own me.
Sure.
Because all I do is frontside Smith stalls. They may not own me because I'm not a proper ripper. The real reason, there are people that they own who aren't as technically good at skateboarding as I am, because those people will toe the party line.
Yes.
And are definitely not going to make media about disgusting, sad, horrible, criminal complicity.
Yeah.
You know, it was terrible.
We had a conversation with a guy who was not involved with that, but was adjacent to all that.
Was he part of the kingdom?
He was in the kingdom, and he spent, as I recall, somewhere between 10 and 20 minutes trying to tell us that we had a wrong perception of what had happened, and that the thing that happened really wasn't that bad. And then he described what happened.
I'll tell that story, because in conjunction with that very thing, during those very days when I was still going to the DIY and I was skating with a guy who was part of that group.
Yeah.
I said, I don't know what happened. I really don't know what happened.
Yeah.
But I think it's essential that we talk about it. And the guy turned to me. I don't have receipts on this, so this is my recollection told to you with no evidence. He turned to me and he said, "It's really sad, because all it was a guy trying to help out his friend." Yeah. And immediately I thought, oh no. Does that mean this dear man is doing a decade or longer in prison because he got tangled up in something?
Right.
And in that moment I thought that, and so I asked him, I said, "Oh, what happened?" And he said, all this photographer did, this is what was told to me, I don't know, but what was told to me was all he did was hold her down.
Right. That was the defense. It was like a defending argument.
In that moment,
right,
I saw the skateboarding community crumbling.
Yeah.
Before my eyes. I saw, like, it was like the curtains went up, and I saw the man behind the curtains, and it was a menacing and terrible thing to find that instead of a weak little man like the Wizard of Oz, it was this horrible dragon that eats children.
Yep. Straight
and up. Everyone was loyal.
Yeah.
To the dragon.
Right.
And it was a sickening moment, because this was a person that I didn't lack respect for this person. Until that moment, I realized this person's judgment is completely compromised.
Yeah.
This person just told me that all he was trying to do was help a friend by holding down a victim of a crime. And I couldn't believe those words were spoken. I was so shaken by that. I disengaged from that relationship. I disengaged from that community and have suffered their slander and their illegitimate false accusations for years.
Yep.
And I have no interest in being vindicated in their eyes, because I have no respect for, I don't care how good you are at skateboarding,
right,
how many different slappies you can do, how many different flip tricks you can do.
Right.
If you are down to have that kind of attitude about that kind of thing, even to compromise the conversation necessary for a community to, I'm not talking about healing the community.
No, right.
I'm talking about making the community solid and strong and resistant to that kind of evil and horrible stuff. Then I'm going somewhere else. I'm going to do something else rather than fit in with that crowd. And whereas I had already offered my critique and ridicule of the silly, shallow, fanatical devotion to industry cronies, right, and silly, low-quality factory pablum that was being fed to us, I realized that I should turn those guns on the insane injustice and evil that were part and parcel of that leadership system that was all run through the skate shop. The parties and all that stuff. There was stuff, man, I'll tell you what. And what's sad about this is it's probably relatable city to city, town to town, through many areas of the country. Now, some of our California listeners, or folks in cities and places where this sort of thing can't happen. There's too many people, too many kinds of people, you know. But wasn't it California where the X Games judge thing happened? Yeah. And wasn't it Woodward that hired Tim Curley back?
Yeah.
And isn't it Woodward that now is doing a whole bunch of damage control on a history of really bad, unsafe garbage with kids?
Yeah.
Yeah, it turns out. It turns out.
Yeah.
So it was back in those days that I thought, you know what, I belong here. This is where I belong. And so this is what I'll do.
Yeah.
And I do not have very many apologies for it. There are very few people, I imagine, there are very few people who want to be associated with such frank talk about such things that have gone on. But you can't kill a dead man.
It's true.
You can't shut down a podcast that nobody listens to in the first place. You know?
Right. Yes.
If nobody's listening in the first place,
right.
we ain't of no account.
Yeah.
We can say what we want. And if we were to be successful in broadcasting, I'd want it to be on this basis.
Yeah.
I'd want it to be because we were willing to say these kinds of things. So that's how you stack up your years when I've got 1/3 of my life left by the number.
Yeah.
You know, if I live to 75, I'm 50 this May. This is how you get there without as many regrets.
Yeah.
You say what you really mean and you don't obey stupid rules.
Yeah.
And those were stupid rules.
Truly.
And the reason people obeyed those rules was because they didn't understand that there's a price. The price for obeying those rules that were set down by that king was paid by whoever the next kid was going to be.
Dude, yeah.
Whoever the next girl was going to be. Whoever the next vulnerable person was going to be. So most of the people who just declared that skateboarding is all about fun and went off to do whatever they wanted to do and just kept it fun.
Right.
They showed very little concern, and there were folks who just didn't know.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't know because they don't care.
Yeah.
They decide not to know. They decide not to be that person. I mean, we spent a long episode discussing what a sinister thing it is to watch a child be farmed into YouTube fame from the time of almost just infancy, toddlership, you know?
Right.
That's a sinister thing. Whether it is going to play out in a sinister way depends on many factors.
Right.
Or a few factors.
Yes.
But it ought to be said. There ought to be a warning.
Yeah.
You know, a flare ought to go up.
Right.
Well, we're the flare.
Yeah.
This podcast is the flare.
Yeah.
And hopefully it'll bring a little light and maybe we'll have a good death at the end of it.
Yeah, something nice.
Now, let me remind our listeners, for those of you who might be part of communities that are touched by this sort of thing, don't come in the comments and identify yourself if you're going to come in and defend that kind of leadership.
Yeah.
Because we're right about that. We have the receipts on it, and we're right. That happened.
Yes.
That's the way it happened, without distortion, even though it's coming from my pinhole perspective. I saw that part clearly.
Yes.
So if you do that,
everybody's going to know.
You're going to escalate your own situation. Your stake is going to go up, and you're going to wind up doing that death threat and menace thing.
Right.
You're going to wind up with the assault thing that we ran into last time we had to live like this. Because this is what you get when someone starts telling the truth about things that nobody's allowed to talk about. Untrue. We are supposed to talk. So it's not shut up and skate.
Yeah.
It's think, grow, live, talk, write. Be a person of deep thought.
Yeah.
Be a well-developed person, spiritually, intellectually. Be a deep thinking person and skate.
Yeah, come on, man. We just can't fit it on a sticker.
That's right. Yeah, it's true. It's true. I would rather break ground in the intellectual realm of skateboarding's people, and I would rather contribute to people's spiritual growth than ride my skateboard.
It's true.
That is true about me. And if that, in someone's view, if that makes a person less a skateboarder, well then, boy howdy.
Yeah, come on, man.
I can live with that. This being a skateboarder thing, I had no idea that I had to check my brains at the door.
Yeah, literally. Literally. I hope it encourages other people and anybody who listens to this to
get help. Speak out.
Yeah, get help. So speak out. And it doesn't have to be all at once.
Also, turn yourself into the authorities.
Yeah, but why not? That's fine.
There are people in the skateboarding community who should turn themselves into the authorities.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also, there are people in the skateboarding community who may not know that they are mandated reporters.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you know about abuses, especially abuses of children that are happening in your community,
Yep.
you have to report that. And I know the authorities kind of suck at their job. They always will. There's never going to be a safe world, and that's why your vigilance and it's not proactivity, man, it's vigilance.
Yep.
We all have to make it harder for this kind of thing to happen.
Yep.
And you're not going to get there by shutting up and skating.
Yep. Make it harder for this thing to happen and skate.
Well, I think about like how they used to just wave their hand and call you a hater.
Yeah.
The thing is, this is not the language of a hater. This is the language of a lover.
It's true.
The people who are willing to fight are the people who love.
Yeah.
You know, you got the barroom brawlers with their big mouths. But when the village is being attacked and the battle lines are formed, those are the guys who shit themselves and don't do their work.
Yeah.
It's the person who loves his family, who loves his neighbor, and is a man of peace, who just wants a quiet life, gets on that battlefield. Back when the Greeks used to line up every year, and they do their work so they can return to their field. Yeah. That's a powerful thing. I mean, look, I'm talking about Greeks.
I know. Come on, bro.
I know, dude.
Just watch Gladiator. It's fine.
It's not a bad flick.
No, it's not.
I wish people read books.
Yeah, that would be more better.
There are a lot
more
of
better.
Our listenership is full of people who read.
That's
I
awesome.
know that.
It's hard to read. We're so soaked in all the media crap.
Yeah, you know your feelings. You know? That's people's feelings, man.
It's true.
What's funny is I know that people will get in their feelings about this and they'll feel wronged.
Well,
fuck yeah.
Under his breath.
I love you. I love you.
Yeah.
But that's not gonna fly.
No. And
No.
dude, I think it's important for people to hear. It doesn't have to be all at once. You don't have to make a stand on some lonely hill all by yourself. It's little things.
Oh, shoot, reach
over
out.
time.
Reach out to us.
Yeah, come on now.
I mean, that's funny because one of the things that used to torment me
Yes.
was I would do a video.
Did you?
Some like just talking about quality, talking about industry, talking about culture, you know,
Yeah.
it's the stuff I used to do. It's all still back on my Facebook.
Yeah.
Just contact the NSA, they have a whole file. And I would do a video and then I would get a message. This happened all the time. I'd get a message and someone would go, "Oh, I'm out here in Oklahoma. I'm 27 years old and I watched your video and I need to reach out to you because, you know, I've been struggling my whole life with that I got abused as a kid."
Yeah.
This used to torment me because I wanted to do more to help. All I can do is talk. I mean, there are other things I do besides talk, but you guys don't get to see any of those because that's my life and it's not your business. You know, there's more that I do than sit here with Luke and do these talks, but this is what I want to be doing. I want to be bringing this stuff up, and I want you to think about it. And some of you need to turn yourselves into the cops, and it is a bad consequence. But what has been done is bad.
Yep.
And the only way forward is through.
Yep.
You need to stop what you're doing and get help.
Yep.
Others of you who haven't gone that far but have been complicit or are interested in such things need to get help now.
Yeah.
You need to talk to someone. You need to get help. Some of you guys are hooked on pills and still think that's partying.
Yeah.
Some of you guys are drinking alcohol in a habitual way as a crutch because someone messed with you.
Yeah.
You need to get help.
Yeah.
And that's what our podcast's highest goal is, to help push you guys into the next thing.
Yes.
And some of you guys are hedonists who don't care about anything but having fun. You're dumb.
We just call our listenership dumb.
Sure.
I like it.
People love being insulted. This is the way we pave our way to fame.
Yes,
this is how we're going to take over the airwaves.
Yes. Shame driven.
You need to wise up. You need to get wise.
Yes.
And around here, I think the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and I look forward to explaining more about that in future episodes. But for today, that brings us to the finish of episode 2. Boy, these culminate on some sharp points.
I like it.
Yeah, we'll pick a topic and we'll talk to you guys again. Have a couple more episodes out. But for now, we'd like to thank those of you who go on Podbean, and join our supporter crew there.
Yeah.
Luke, are we going to? I know we're going to hang with that Podbean thing for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But are we going to do a subscribe star or a
Oh, dude.
Patreon or something like that? Are we going to set up a way for people to support us?
I mean, they can through Podbean right now.
Yeah.
The thing about Podbean
That's right. It works.
nice is that it's just Podbean is a stepping point into things like Spotify and Apple and things where people can come and listen to it. So it's not as integral as I think we think it is, which is to me kind of pleasant to think about because the UI is bad.
Yeah, Podbean is rudimentary
It is.
in its developmental offerings.
Yes.
But we're here.
Yes.
We about this.
Yes. What I'd really like is that people would send in topics and ideas and questions to our...
Oh, they can do that by emailing those to, what is it?
CapmLew@gmail.
CapmLew, CapmLew questions
at gmail.com. Yes. And we'd love to, maybe some of you guys want to, it's going to be anonymous if you'd like it to be anonymous as well, I'm sure. And
all you have to do is tell us you want it to be anonymous.
Yeah,
and we're not going to put you on Front Street.
Right.
Not
but we
at
will
all.
put some of the stuff that you want us to talk about on Front Street, which is nice.
Yeah.
It makes it even easier for people out there who feel like I want to do something, but I don't know what I can do, man. You can write us a book and we'll talk about it.
There are people dying for a word.
Yeah, come on now.
They're dying
for
someone to help them by expressing solidarity.
Yeah.
There are people who are terrified, who need to be emboldened and strengthened.
Yes.
So come on, send us your questions at CapmLewQuestions@gmail.com. Put your comments down on our Podbean, or you can send us messages through Facebook.
Yep.
Even Instagram. We have a new CapmLew.
Yeah.
What is it?
It's CapmLew, the CapmLew podcast.
But it's got underscores in it.
Yeah, it's underscore CapmLew underscore podcast. Yes.
You can message us there.
Yeah.
And we're committed to a certain degree of anonymity.
Yeah.
We are not afraid to put out the form of what happened.
Yeah.
But we like to leave out names and we like to leave out places.
Yeah.
As best we can.
Yeah, come on.
We like to serve the mission of platforming ideas, but preserve the privacy of people involved.
Yes.
So, there you go.
Come on now.
It's great to see on the Facebook Live. We've had to restart the Facebook Live several times. I just decided anytime it flakes out, I'm just going to restart it.
Yes.
And so we've got these fragmentary Facebook Lives that are up. We're going to start dragging those down and sharing video highlights on a new YouTube channel.
Yes.
And we're going to get that media coming out. Probably it's going to take us about a year of just creating podcasts and then getting that going, because Luke and I both have jobs.
Yep.
And we don't just want to quit them.
Yep.
We're not interested in growing in a less than vibrant and healthy way.
Yes.
But we think that it would be great to see this grow.
Yeah.
See more people maybe getting some encouragement.
Absolutely.
So there you go. For what it's worth, another thank you to Life Skateboards, lifeskateboard.com for your. There are tons of shapes and the ability to order custom dimensions. I order my Panhead XLs with a 14.75 wheelbase, and I'll tell you what. Yes, just as God intended. I can't say enough about how much I enjoy this 11-inch wide plank of lumber. I'm not afraid for there to be a half-inch overlap over my wheels. I don't do primo slides. I don't do, is it truck stands? I don't know how to call when the board is up like that. I don't do freestyle.
Yeah.
I just surf.
Yeah.
And I already got the girl. I made it right with my creator. He made it right for me.
Yeah.
And so I don't fart around with a whole bunch of technical stuff. So I ride this 11-inch plank, and I just love it.
Yes.
We love Pete's Pigs. We love Pete.
Yes.
We love the Makers Movement. We're very happy to have been able to be part of your lives today with the CapmLew podcast. And as always, it is for what it's worth. CapmLew and Luke.
Yes. Laters.
Of course, Facebook, you're still with us
God,
because you guys are on the inside track.
Sometimes, dude, we're going to get a hot mic on one of those. We're going to forget and say something.
Never.
It's never going to happen.
Yeah, but we always, you know what? It's a funny thing I did, a habit that I've developed is every time I end a phone call.
Yeah.
Every time I end a phone call, no matter how difficult the call was, I think of something that I love about that person. It's not so hard to do. I think of something I sincerely love about that person, and I think about it, and if I'm going to say the next thing I say, I always make sure it's something that reflects on something I appreciate about that person. Sometimes it's as simple as, well, the Savior died for them too,
Yeah.
and if He loves them, then so shall I. You know, that's the kind of thinking that I bring out my mouth, because I know someday I'm going to have a hot mic, and I ain't going down like that.
Come on, man.
I'm not.
I know.
But I try to keep my speech. I do use profanity.
Watch your profanity.
Is that?
It's a vine, I think.
If I do use profanity because I have deep feelings and I don't have a lot of self-control.
Me too.
It does not reflect well on my piety.
No.
But darn it, when I'm not having self-control, I don't care.
That's the problem.
And I know that that's going to disqualify me for something important someday. But for now, I'm just leaving it at for what it's worth. You know what I mean?
Surely.
And it may not be worth as much as I wish it were.
It's fine.
And it may not be fine. It is what it is. We appreciate the comments you guys have dropped during our time together. Lots of people have dropped lots of comments, and
Sam's been making fun of me the entire time.
has he?
Yeah.
He's heckling us.
He's being real mean.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we've failed to be mean to Sam.
Yeah, so tit for tat there.
Yeah, we have a really good relationship with our board maker, and we're really grateful for him. And even when I'm making CapmLew custom boards, which is not going to be a business, we are going to be grateful for Life Skateboards and all that they do.
Yes.
Over there. Sam and Casper, thanks for your work. Yeah. And again, thanks to everybody who supports us on Podbean. We really do need and appreciate the support we get on Podbean.
Yeah.
Through that. We really do appreciate that. I know that there's something about sharing the podcast. I don't know if you guys can do that. I'm not asking you to. There's stuff in our podcast you might not feel great about being associated with. I understand that there are deep feelings that are shared here.
Yes.
But we are what we are by the grace of God, and we're going to keep doing because we're going to keep being. Thanks, friends.
Laters.